Hey, it's Judd. So that's our dude, Devin Sanchez, training. The dude is still in high school. Sometimes it's easy to forget. This guy's got a whole other year of high school football to play, which is amazing looking at him there. But I can't play the audio because it's got a little song in the background. But you're not hearing the noises that are coming out of him, which are extremely intimidating. And he's been so delightful. Anytime I can give him some shine, I will. And talking about Devin, Tavian St. Clair apparently has been putting in some work on David Sanders, who said that he gets after him more than most coaches. Let's get it. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
That means we've got.
And welcome in. Good to see you guys today on a rainy day in Northeast Ohio. If I was to ask you, what are the six, and I don't know why six is the number, but this question was asked of our old buddy, Buckeye hater from Cincinnati, who I bring up often because that just drives me nuts, though I do have an official explanation of why the Cincinnati-Columbus rivalry started way back in the day. Stu Mandel of The Athletic, the six most prestigious jobs in college football. Well, I'm going to read you his take on it. You can think about it while I dig this up. The six most, not best jobs, but most prestigious jobs in college football. All right, here goes Stu. He starts out with Alabama, which some would say is hard to argue with as the number one prestigious job in college football. His explanation, simply put, you're holding the same job as Bear Bryant and Nick Saban with their 13 combined national championships. Okay. Number two is who I would have had number one as a youngster, Notre Dame. He says they're not quite as shiny as a gig as it once was. It's still uniquely fabled and dripping with history going back to the days of Newt Rockne and Frank Leahy. And you got to go back there because you're talking about a run of guys like Bob Davie, Charlie Weiss, Ty Willingham, Jerry Faust. Jerry Faust, an incredible guy, not a good coach. And that kind of took away a lot of that luster for me. When you got guys like Charlie Weiss, who has been a Notre Dame head coach, I don't know if I can still put it up there. But number three is where he loses me. He puts Michigan at number three, okay? Another job that's synonymous with multiple icons, from Fielding Yost to Fritz Chrysler to Bo Schembechler to Jim Harbaugh. One national championship between Bo Schembechler and Jim Harbaugh. And Fielding Yost and Fritz Chrysler were so long ago, like I don't know that most Michigan fans would have any clue who the hell they are. So that just blows my mind. But number four, maybe even worse, USC. Being the head coach of USC puts you in much the same Hollywood limelight as the head coach of the Lakers. And that somehow makes this a prestigious college football coaching job. Name me four USC college coaches. That's not a prestigious coaching job. That's just not. That might be number 11. That's not even in the top. Okay, so you got your 8 blue bloods. That is the last one of the 8 blue bloods. That's lower than Nebraska to me. All right, maybe not lower than Nebraska. Number 5, Oklahoma. My goodness, some of the names that have held this job: Bud Wilkinson, Barry Switzer, Bob Stoops. All right, you got 3 guys that won national championships. Bud Wilkinson, a legend. Barry Switzer, the bravado, the personality. Stoops, look, I love Stoops because he's from Ohio. He started off big game Bob. After that, he ran a good program. Don't buy it ahead of Ohio State, who his number 6 is Ohio State. And his explanation for Ohio State being number 6, it's hard to separate the prestige of the program from the prestige of the job, and it's a big one. Mentions nothing of the legends at Ohio State. We're talking Woody Hayes, Jim Tressel, Bob Stoops era. Who do you think is more respected as the better head coach, the more impactful guy in college football? It's Jim Tressel. It's not even close. Woody Hayes, obviously, we don't need to go into that. Urban Meyer, when we talk about bravado and personality, like, he uses Switzer in that sense. Urban Meyer, 3 national championships, widely regarded by most as the second best coach during the Saban reign. It's just ridiculous to me. Ohio State as a program, the prestige of that job, the sheer number, the few number of head coaches that have been at Ohio State over the time period. Alabama, several more head coaches. Notre Dame, several more. Michigan, several more. USC, several more. Oklahoma is the only one that's close with the small number of coaches that have held that job. Just ridiculous. And this guy needles us at every turn, and I can't stand him. Little stew ball Mandel from Northwestern and Cincinnati. Got too many wedgies by Buckeye fans when he was a kid. No doubt about it. Little stew ball. This discussion with the Duck folks about the wide receiver battle kind of sent me down a wormhole of Buckeye wide receivers, and I was looking at, all sorts of high school footage, etc. And it kind of got me on the topic of Jayden Ballard and what I thought this guy was going to be coming out of high school from Massillon. And if you're not familiar, it wouldn't be surprising if you're not, because he didn't make a single catch last year. Let's take a look at Jayden Ballard from high school at Massillon Washington High School. Playing some good competition here, and you could just right there, boom, foot in the ground, smokes into the end zone. 3rd and 21, fourth quarter versus rival. All right, long ball. That's 50 yards. Okay, that ball traveled 50 yards, and from a full sprint, that's almost an over-the-shoulder catch. That's the degree of difficulty there. So, same play, looks like different angle. They do this a lot. And here we get to see that catch. Yeah, almost over his shoulder from a full sprint. Crazy degree of difficulty. He's a crazy athlete. When they did one of their social media videos, they were asking the guys on the Buckeyes team, choose your starting lineup, basketball lineup. They all chose themselves and 4 other guys. Every single one of them chose Ballard. We're talking about a guy with a 21-foot long jump, sub 11 second 100 meter in track. Here we go against McKinley. Massillon-McKinley, one of the greatest rivalries in all of high school football. They've been setting the line on this game, a gambling line, since I was a kid. But is he content? He seems content to be a Buckeye and graduate from the school and enjoy his friends. He seems content. Here we go. 45 yards in the air. Absolutely smoked his man. Same play, different angle. Look at that. 10 yards of separation. I could make that pass. Maybe not. Watch one more here. Top of your screen. Gone. Goodbye. No. Oh. So, just a sick athlete all the way around. Silky smooth, crazy speed, adjusts well to the ball in the scouting report. Excels in basketball, very natural pass catcher who can adjust to passes and make difficult grabs. Tracks the ball well in the air, and we saw that. Wins on contested catches, we saw that. Gets off the ground quickly, attacks passes at the highest point. Long strider with a solid time speed. Can get downfield and take the top off defenses. Shows fluidity in route running. Currently more of a deep ball threat than one who will make a ton of plays. Has to get stronger and keep working through the route tree, but a very talented athlete who can be a number 1 receiver in college and has the potential to develop into an NFL prospect. Track and field athlete who runs several events, owns the following personal best: 10.89 100, 22.77 200, 6-foot high jump, and a 21 and 9.25-inch long jump. 21-foot long jump. I mean, wild athlete. So a crazy prospect in the class, ranked behind Emeka Ibuka, who was number 1. Ballard was number 4. Troy Franklin at Oregon was number 3, since moved on to the NFL. Other guys of note in that class, Brian Thomas Jr. of LSU was number 9. Xavier Worthy, number 13 of Texas, 2 NFL guys. Number 19, Malik Nabors, LSU, since moved on to the NFL, of course. Lorenzo Styles Jr. was 1 spot ahead of Malik Nabors. And at number 21, Marvin Harrison Jr. Jaden Ballard was ahead of all these guys. Jaden Ballard, we saw the film. I mean, properly rated. An absolute stud. He can do it all. And a great kid. A really great kid. Everybody liked him. He's not from far from me. Everybody had always had good things to say about him. And played against good competition. Played deep into the playoffs. Went to Ohio State, and I expected the normal progression we see from a guy like a Garrett Wilson, from a guy like a Jackson Smith and Jigba, guys that we hear about coming out that we're excited for. I expected we would see that. We haven't seen that yet. We saw not a single catch last year. We've seen him fair catch punts and dance. I don't get it. He says he compares himself most to Chris Olave when he talks about guys from the past. I think that's a pretty good comp, to be honest. But Chris Olave had a drive and a desire to get on the field, to play, to work. I don't hear anything negative about Jaden Ballard, which is why I'm having such a hard time, and I think a lot of us are, putting the pieces together as to why this isn't working out for him, why he can't see the field. When we look at the wide receiver room, he's behind Jeremiah Smith at the X. Good luck seeing the field much there. At the Z, Carnell, Mylan Graham behind him. In the slot, Emeka and Innis behind him. Bryson Rogers, we all want to see him a little bit more this year. Looked fantastic in the spring practices. Mylan Graham, if you haven't checked out Mylan Graham, we'll watch Mylan Graham. Just a little snippet of Mylan Graham. Wow. There is a clip of Mylan Graham where it looks like he is, I honestly thought, I'm not kidding you guys, I thought that they sped up the tape in this highlight accidentally. And then I had to watch the other guys and realize, oh my gosh, he's really moving that fast. It is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And what's even more incredible when we talk about Milan Graham is that Ohio State was his first scholarship offer. Brian Hartline found him before anybody, and the dude goes on to become a 5-star. Love those stories, but wait till you see this guy's feet. They are crazy. But, the wide receiver room, we talked about it. We were stacking them up against Oregon. I mean, when you look at Emeka and Innis, Rodgers backing the two of them up, then Carnell and Milan Graham, Jeremiah Smith, after him, we know what talent Jayden has. Can he see the field at all? Can he show everybody what he's got? Or is this guy someone who just is content being part of the team, part of the university, and maybe that's why he didn't transfer? Not because he thinks he's going to see the field, because he just likes it there. It could be. I've had a lot of people point that out, make that claim. They think he's just perfectly content being a Buckeye, and he likes it. And that's cool, right? But he's capable of so much more, it would seem to me. So it's just been really disappointing. But when we talk about this wide receiver room, I mean, it's absolutely loaded. We haven't seen it out of Carnell Tate yet to the degree where we think he is who we think he can be. And Milan Graham, wow, I'm excited to see him. We heard Brian Hartline talk about the way he trusts Carnell Tate, potentially lining him up in the slot as well. And moving Emeka around, moving both of those two around wherever he wants. He said those two, he gives them the full load. They can do whatever he needs them to do. Crazy wide receiver room. I did get a question the other day from one of our Georgia pals who said, do we think it's possible that Ohio State is having difficulty with wide receiver recruiting this year because of Chip Kelly and because it's perceived that they're going to be more of a running team? No, I don't think so, because I think these guys are being recruited with the pitch of Julian Sayin is going to be your quarterback, and Julian Sayin is a slinger. And, when Julian Sayin is the quarterback, I suspect that we're going to run it a lot more this season than we will with him. He can run. He's a mobile guy, but he's small, and he's going to be, I feel, an excellent passer, and they're not going to want to take as many chances as they are this year with getting him hurt. So I don't think that's it. Is the potential of these big-time players coming in to a wide receiver room with Jeremiah Smith maybe pushing some of them off? We talk about wide receivers. We know the stereotype that goes with them, the diva, the attention. If you enter that room with Jeremiah Smith there, is there enough shine for you? I'm sure that enters some of their minds. Jeremiah Smith gets so much attention, and it's only going to grow. But at the same time, he's also going to get so much attention from a defense and really make a star out of a guy who's got some serious skill lining up opposite him. An incredible opportunity, no doubt. But the wide receiver class that we're trying to get in on, Texas, people really think they're going to sign DeCorian Moore, Jamie French, and Kalik Lockett. Kalik Lockett, my favorite pure wide receiver in this class, just got measured. His hands are enormous. My gosh, this dude's legit. I think he'll be the best guy to come out of this class to the NFL. I don't think it'll be Decorian Moore. I think it'll be Kalik Lockett. We're not on his official visits. We're still in on Decorian Moore. Jamie French, he's coming to Columbus this weekend. That was not in his plans. We just saw that tweet from Steve Wiltfong. So something changed from the time he talked yesterday, because he didn't say that yesterday, Jamie French, through last night. I'm talking Tuesday night, when Wiltfong tweeted that. Jamie French had an interview yesterday, and Tuesday during the day, did not say anything about this visit. And then all of a sudden, he's coming to Columbus. Wiltfong tweets last night, this upcoming weekend. What's the situation there? I don't care. I really don't. Jamie French can come or he can go. There are a ton of talented wide receivers here. Hell, we just saw Winston Watkins. Rivals rated him a 5-star. He's way down the Buckeyes board. Go ahead and grab him. He's fantastic, by the way. But this is just a deep class. And the only people at the top that are like, man, you really, really want that guy. That's a real difference maker from these other guys. But the gap's not that big. I think it's Decorian Moore and Kalik Lockett. But after that, it's a pile of dudes that are all very highly skilled guys, a little different each one. But they're all so much more polished than we just used to. Wide receivers now go so much deeper. We see them come out with so much more polish. And we can kind of see a little more of what they're going to be, in my opinion. We're not working with such a raw product, raw guy coming out of high school. They're not as raw as they used to be. They're much more trained, and you can kind of see a little bit more of where they're going. They look like they've been in college for 2 years now. We'll put it that way. They look like they've been getting college coaching for 2 years now when we see them come out of high school. So we can project a little better, in my opinion. And, there's a lot of guys in this class that are going to be very high quality wide receivers. The wide receiver play in college is just going up and up and up. So what really matters is, can you get those difference makers, the ones that set themselves apart? And in this class, I don't think there's a big gap from those difference makers and everybody else, the next 5 guys. Last year, there certainly was. Many years, there certainly is. There's a big gap. So you get one of those guys, and you're really setting yourself apart. This year, I don't really think there is. So I'm certainly not stressing about wide receiver recruiting. I'm seeing a lot of people say, could Hartline pull off another class like 2022, where he just seemingly totally whiffed? I don't think that's the case, because I think this class is so much more talented, and it's just going to be him identifying the guys that he wants. I sure hope one of those guys is Quincy Porter. I want that size. I really would love to have that size. We are switching the offense around a little bit, leaning more on a running game, which brings me to my next point. I got a question from somebody I think is an interesting discussion. We're going to go over that. Our man Naim Offord, at the On3 Elite thing we were talking about. I was thinking more about this thing. I haven't talked to anybody else and gotten their opinion about this, but this On3 Elite thing is interesting. So they got this On3 Elite, 50 top prospects by invitation only, bring them down to Memphis, showing them a great time. And the premise of it is to educate them on NIL. They've got financial planners, they've got former athletes, current athletes, and they're all kind of showing these guys the ropes. These guys will all be future NFL guys, and most of them, and just kind of giving them some education. And what does On3 get out of it? Well, official visits are about to start everywhere. So On3 sets up a table. I mean, they're interviewing all these guys. They got these guys away from all the other services, and they got them right in-house, staying on campus. They're pumping out all the storylines minute by minute by minute. Who's doing what? They've got all the guys right there. It's pretty brilliant. And these guys are aggressive. They're really trying to come up. They're trying to bury 24/7. They're not there yet in the scouting department, that's for sure, at least in my opinion. But this is a pretty slick idea. But Naim Offord, they tried to get him to take pictures with hats of other programs, and he would not. He refused. He would only take a picture with his Ohio State hat, and he reaffirmed his commitment to Ohio State in the strongest possible words. So kudos to Naim Offord. He's not having any of this nonsense, and he's definitely not liking people talking about him and other schools besides Ohio State. Like this dude a lot. The annual SEC meetings are going on, and the SEC coaches all have spoken unanimously against the 85 to 95 scholarship players, which would eliminate the walk-ons. I'm really happy about this. This is being introduced as a way to protect the universities from antitrust lawsuits, essentially saying that if you've got 85 scholarship guys and the institutions are now paying these 85 scholarship guys, then you've got the 30 to 35 walk-ons who make up the rest of the roster, and they're not being paid, then they can band together and sue, saying that we did the same amount of work as all those guys, you didn't pay us, and they're going to win that lawsuit. So in order to protect themselves from that happening, they're saying, gone with the walk-ons. You can't have them anymore. So this is a big point of discussion at the SEC meetings, and all the coaches are up in arms talking out about this. They absolutely don't want it. And it's going to be the coaches pushing against this that is probably going to get the ball rolling to find some other way around this situation. So Mike Elko, new coach from Duke of Texas A&M now, strongly against it. He says it's against what college football stands for. They, of course, have a big program of legacies of walk-ons at Texas A&M. The 12th man started from a walk-on in 1922. Kirby Smart said he doesn't want to make definitive opinions until he knows exactly what the rules are, but he said it's baffling. And he pointed out Will Muschamp and Dabo Swinney both were walk-ons. That's how they started in football. Vanderbilt coach, I forget the dude's name, he actually was a walk-on at Vanderbilt. Steve Sarkisian said his son Brady is a walk-on at Texas right now, and walk-ons resonate about what college football is all about. Kalen DeBoer of Alabama says it's much safer having 135 guys, limiting practice reps for some, maximizing practice reps for depth players. Commissioner Greg Sankey talked about heading up to Congress 5 times now, and they want the antitrust exemptions from Congress. And he said it's all going to be dependent on who's in the White House, who's leading Congress, who's in control. And that's a shame, but that's just the way it works. I don't get into any of that nonsense, but, you guys can talk about that all you want. I just want the college football rules to allow walk-ons to be part of the game. I think it's horrible. I absolutely love walk-on programs, and Nebraska has a rich history of the walk-on program being a big part. We look at all the guys who are legacies on the team. We talked about there's 6 guys or 7 guys that are legacies on the Buckeyes right now. Half of them are walk-ons, and that's what Elko's talking about at Texas A&M. They got it's a big tradition. If you are, you have a legacy, you get, you can be a walk-on if you want, if your dad played there or something. It's really cool. I love it. And those guys work just as hard as everybody else, which is, why they would be able to win this lawsuit. But it really sucks. They got to find some way around this. This is just terrible. But there's another thing they're talking about, and that's last season, the Big Ten decided that they were going to make a change in injury reports. So now the Big Ten makes injury reports public, and they have to make them public 2 hours before kickoff. So they're discussing this in the ACC, and the reason that they want these injury reports is for gambling. They want the gambling books to be able to have these numbers so they can adjust their lines accordingly, and it's all public information to the betting public because of the contact that they're worried about and that they've seen already from people with the players trying to find out inside information, who's injured, who's not, so that they can go make their bets. So they're trying to limit this contact from support staff, from everybody else around the players, trying to find out about injuries. So SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said he was concerned about the widespread contact between athletes and others on campus, including class and those in support staffs. NFL teams are required to list the injury report daily starting on Wednesday. Mike Elko from Texas A&M thinks like everything, I'm sure people are going to try to find a way to escape the system. Florida AD Scott Strickland says we have a tradition in college athletics of trying to be competitive in every single thing we do, which is something I talk about a lot when we talk about the system of college coaches and the way the media handles them and how little information they give out. It's all for competitive edge. They take it so far that they release nothing. And, a lot of it's silly, but that's the way they do it. And here he's talking about that culture, and it's true. But this is another rule change they're trying to make, increased because of the increased prevalence of gambling. Everybody's got it on their phones now. There's so many apps. A few months ago, we discussed that Charlie Baker, NCAA president, was pushing for a lot of states to make gambling prop bets illegal in college. And he was successful in Ohio. You can't bet on college prop bets anymore. A lot of states have done it, and they're pushing for a lot more to make that illegal. A lot of this is supposedly based on threats that athletes have received. And apparently they had a AI computer tracking system track 1,000 athletes in football, basketball, men's and women's basketball. 1,000 athletes, looked at these athletes and their social media, and the analysis found that 4,000 posts or comments were confirmed to be abusive or threatening during March Madness. Women's basketball players approximately 3 times as much as men's basketball players. 15 to 25% of the abuse directed at the players or coaches was related to betting. So this isn't the players reporting. This is AI scanning negative comments, harassment, and they're saying, just a little less than 1 in 4 was related to betting. A forward at North Carolina, Armando something or other, told reporters that he received dozens of DMs on social media criticizing him after winning a game against Michigan State, saying that he thought he played pretty good, but he guessed he didn't get enough rebounds because they were messaging him telling him he didn't get enough rebounds. So if you're not familiar with college prop bets, we're talking about generally, so if we're talking football, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, how many yards, over, under, how many touchdowns, over, under. And in my experience in messing around with a lot of different books, which I've been known to do, generally just the big games will have these. If it's a smaller school, they generally only might list the quarterback because they just don't have enough data. They don't put enough money into researching that like they would like in Ohio State. So there's not a ton of options for prop bets in college. There never was. And a lot of people, when this first came out, thought, okay, this is a good thing. You're not going to give the college kids a reason to potentially throw the game. If I'm a quarterback and the line is 250 yards, or towards the end of the game, maybe I throw an incomplete on purpose so I don't go over that 250 yards. I talked to somebody who's loosely a friend of mine who's kind of in that casino world about this a couple years ago, like what you could potentially do with these prop bets if you were a player. And the way he explained it to me was, you can't really get around this. You can't really make a whole lot of money on this. So I was saying to him, all right, I'm a quarterback, 250 is the over. Me, my dad, all of us go and we put the money on the under. And then late in the fourth quarter, I intentionally missed some balls to make sure we hit the under. And he said, there are such advanced tracking systems that track all the books. And if there's increased unusual activity for that particular prop bet, which generally these prop bets don't bring in a lot of action, if there's increased activity on one particular side, it flags it, they close it down, they investigate. So you can't really get away with that. So then to me, I was like, all right, well, I guess it's not a big deal. They can't really do a whole lot with it. But we've since seen, since I had that conversation, that, there was an LSU player who was betting on himself with prop bets. He was betting a ton. This guy was, had $100,000 in his accounts. But, they're younger. So maybe younger people make not as good of decisions. My issue was, if you're going to make it illegal for college, why isn't it legal in the pros? Like that, I just don't understand. We are now these guys are not amateur athletes anymore. They haven't been for a while, but they're really not now because they're definitely going to be getting paid by 25, 26. from the schools, and the players who are these are wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs. These guys, and all at big schools, that's the only time you can really get action on these. Except if a smaller school is kind of playing on a Thursday night by themselves, you might be able to get it on some prop bets, or could before it was made illegal. But we're talking about guys who make NIL money. So these have been professionals. It wasn't really a situation of amateurism to me. So I don't know, but that's the situation. So the SEC is trying to help us out with this walk-on program. I hope they're successful. And they are trying to go the Big Ten route, which is report injuries. And I guess that'll be good for everybody. Certainly don't want people getting harassed online, especially college kids. But we're talking that was only 15 to 25%. They get a ton of it, I'm sure, man. People are vicious on social media. It's one of the reasons I did not want to do this show. And now, maybe every other day I get some nasty kind of hate. It's tough to deal with, even in my little tiny, small little nugget that I'm getting. I can't imagine how awful that would be. If you're someone who's kind of sensitive to that stuff, as a, and you're young, and maybe, you think of women's basketball players, they're getting 3 times as much, they said. And I mean, that's a whole nother story as to why that's happening. That strikes me as a whole lot of cowardice, that they're getting so much more. But you know how people attack, these are 18 to 22-year-old girls, attack their appearance and stuff. And that just sounds really awful, man. That sounds really awful. But people are vicious, people are nasty. And when you don't have to look somebody in the face and say it to them, people got to, it's a whole different set of rules they play by, which is very cowardly. And that's why I don't say anything on here about anybody I wouldn't say to their face. And, I get a lot of comments that people would not say that to my face. I'm quite certain of it. So one of my favorite players on the 2024 Ohio State Buckeye team is TC Caffey. He's a running back from Hubbard, a guy who is a walk-on. And all we heard every time any of the coaches talked about the running backs this past year was, yeah, this guy doing great. Also, TC Caffey. Not usual to hear that about a walk-on from multiple coaches. We heard it from players as well. We heard it from Ryan Day, Chip Kelly. We heard it from Quinshon Judkins. We heard it from Dallin Hayden. Really impressive stuff. TC Caffey, a guy who had an amazing touchdown in 2022, kind of a breakout. Everybody knows his name now. And then he got injured, tore his Achilles. He was out the remainder of that season and then all of 2023. Letterman Row had a TC Caffey love fest today. So there was 2 articles about TC. First one I read, TC Caffey just kind of, about all the coaches talking about him, about the hard work, his journey, some of TC's thoughts. The second one was kind of something I was talking about earlier on in the season, where it was just assumed earlier on in the spring, assumed that the running back rotation after Dallin left would be the 2 guys at the top, followed by James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon, then TC at the bottom. Just assumed he was going to be 5th. I don't think that's the case. I predicted that TC would be 4th in that rotation beneath James Peoples. Well, Spencer Holbrook of Letterman Row seems to think that he's got a real shot, though he predicts James Peoples to be 3rd, or still the favorite to be 3rd. He has a real shot at being that 3rd spot. I don't think that'll be the case. I think James Peoples, even though he doesn't have the experience that TC has, is ready to roll, and will get the bulk of those carries as the 3rd man in that rotation. But even the fact that TC is being considered for that, I think is a heck of an accomplishment. And I think he's a heck of a guy. And I'm certainly going to be rooting for him big time this year. And I think we're going to get to see quite a bit of him. So fantastic for him. Currently, the Buckeyes stand at 81 of 85 scholarships. We don't anticipate them signing any more guys in the portal class. Let's get TC on scholarship. That would be awesome. So really hoping that happens for him. Awesome dude, awesome Buckeye, works his butt off. And if you look at the high school footage, and I've done it myself, of Sam Williams-Dixon and TC Caffey, you could not tell me which one of those guys got offered the scholarship and which one didn't. these guys are both worthy of being on scholarship, and I really hope that happens for TC Caffey. For now, that'll be all, guys. Check me out in podcast form. Appreciate if you like the video for me, and I will check you guys tomorrow. Jug 'em Bucks out.